Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 21st episode of the tier list ranking series here on my channel. And I've finally reached the, I guess, awful year, really, that is 2020, or that was 2020. It's long gone now, of course. It was awful in many ways. I mean, a lot of things happened in the world that I'm sure I don't really need to mention here early on. But the world was in a curious little place, and so was the music scene, I have to say. However, it's not without its strengths and highlights, I would say, in terms of the actual music scene here. These are the 20 highest charting songs from the year, and some of them maybe not really up my alley, but some of them have really stood. I have quite fond feelings towards, absolutely, and you'll find out which ones those are very, very shortly. I will try and get through all of these 20 as briefly as I can, while still providing my personal thoughts on every single song in as clear as a manner that I really am able to put out there. And we'll see how that goes. It's usually a bit of a struggle for me. There are a lot of music to just think about and discuss, and this series has really overwhelmed me with the amount of music that I've listened to lately. However, it's been tons of fun, and it's going to be fun to talk about these 20 songs right here. Maybe not the most fun to talk about the first one up, which is called Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles. And this, I really have to say that I think this has to be probably the most repetitive song of the year. How many times does he say Watermelon Sugar in the song? Probably like 60. I don't know, I haven't counted, but it's a crazy amount, to the point where you feel like, wow, we're really going with just repeating those two words over and over and over again with no stopping, which is a really big shame in my opinion here, because I think the song has so many uplifting qualities about it. It's energetic, it's kind of energetic. Maybe I said that twice. I kind of stumble on my words, but it's energetic. It's high in just this upbeat vibe. I really like the horns in this track. I think they're quite expressive. Instrumentally, it just kind of has a very upbeat and happy feeling to it. And then ultimately, it's kind of just a shame that the repetition of the track really kills the mood and the happy feelings that I have towards it. I'm left a bit underwhelmed by it. It has too many qualities instrumentally, I feel, for me to just completely disregard it. So I'm placing this one in the D tier, which I think kind of fits quite nicely, because instrumentally it has so many strengths, but I'm just very unimpressed by the approach that the hook has, really, which is the main thing I take away from this song. There will be more Harry Styles to discuss a little bit later, so don't you worry about that. We'll see what I think of that song later on. As I move on to Roses, the Imanbek remix by St. John. I probably mispronounced all of those names, but regardless, this track has a very punchy beat. It's like a fun song for being a club banger. I can imagine the song hitting really hard in the right setting. Me listening at home in my studio speaker, perhaps not really the best setting for a track like this. I think that it's on the verge of being quite annoying. The vocal style that the song has could be enjoyable, but I really find it to kind of just lean over the fence there of being quite irritating, unfortunately. The song is quite repetitive and ultimately uninteresting in my opinion as well. I don't really mind it. I mean, it's punchy and energetic in that case, but I never really seek this one out. If I want to listen to a song within this style of music, I'd rather just listen to some Jew or some Matroda or some other kind of just bass house that feels more purposeful. This one's just kind of there, not really too exciting in my opinion. I'm placing this one in the D tier as well, actually. Not as repetitive as Watermelon Sugar, believe it or not, but so I place it just above. It has similar redeeming qualities. The beat goes kind of hard, but I need to be in the right mood to really embrace it, I feel. However, something that I embrace no matter what mood I am in, really, it has to be said, is Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish, which I think is without a doubt the most beautiful song on today's list. I can already say that, as I have 17 more songs to talk about after this one. But it's just head and shoulders next to the competition when it comes to being a very, very pretty song, and quite a captivating one as well. Very emotionally loaded, this one. The subdued ambience of it is really stunning to me. I think the production, of course, puts a big part in that. This whole tranquil and atmospheric vibe that it has. The synth work is subtle, it's smooth, it just kind of sways around. The soundscape becomes really massive and quite transformative. It's its own little world building going on in the song, and the vocal performance from Billie Eilish here is just so restrained, but also so characteristic. It just showcases the greatest amount of vulnerability here. It feels very palpable in terms of its honesty as well. I listen to every word. I think it's both a storytelling, compelling piece, while also being an audio just absolute joy of a listen to just get lost in, really. Just this spacious soundscape that it has, the very tranquil tone of the track. The production is incredible, melodically sublime track as well. I think the choruses are immaculate. It's melancholic, it's rich in detailing, just the small little details throughout the song. You got the "my head is underwater" line where the vocal is completely drowned out, as if the vocal has actually been drowned by being underwater in that place. And it just feels progressive as well. The development of the track is just stunning. I think this is as clear as an S tier kind of song that I could ever find. One of the most beautiful songs I've listened to, I have to say. I find everything about it to be perfect, and it is indeed everything I wanted. Sorry, I'll show my way out as I move on to the Justin Bieber track with Quavo called Intentions. And there are like different aspects and different ways to go about this song. I feel like when you're talking about it, there are some neat sound effects in the track. There's a solid little vocal hook from Bieber here, and it has a pretty warm approach. Simultaneously, I find that the repetition of the track isn't really interesting. It's the same 3 chords on never-ending repeat throughout the whole thing, which doesn't really leave me very excited about it. The minimalistic beat is quite flat in my ears. The approach may be warm, but unfortunately I feel like it's a lukewarm execution to it. I don't stick around for this one. I kind of zone out a little bit, even though the hook has something quite sweet and mellow in it. It's ultimately just not very enjoyable for me. I'm placing this one in the E tier. Not too many redeeming qualities for this song. It's just passable, and I think the E tier is like, okay, you did your job, but I'm not returning to it, and that's kind of my feelings towards Intentions there. As I move on to the next song up, which will be Roxanne by Arizona Zervas, and I do not know much about Arizona Zervas here. This is probably the only hit song that I can name, at least from this particular artist. But it's understandable kind of why it became a hit. I think it's a rather sing-along friendly tune, really. The hook really works, absolutely. It's like I really like the warm approach of the package as well. It's kind of similar to Intentions, but more memorable in my opinion. I'm still not really a big fan of this high-pitched, very heavily processed vocal style that a lot of these hip-hop songs really use these days. But like this one just kind of gets a little bit of a free pass because of the hook, I suppose. It's catchy, it's memorable, it's a little bit of fun. Some playful detailing in the beat here as well, with like the rhythmic percussive patterns going throughout the song. The verses just kind of pass me by, unfortunately. I think it's a solid effort, really. I'm placing this one in the C tier. It's not the most exciting thing out there, but for being a song within this genre, it manages to really strike a chord with me in some regard. So yeah, solid. I don't really have many complaints about it. Next up will be Savage by Megan Thee Stallion and Beyoncé. And I mean, it's again not really my kind of music, as I've said so many times. This is, rapping about confidence in a very confident manner, and all more power to that. I don't mind that. Unfortunately, there's very little melodic going on about this song. I mean, Beyoncé is thrown in a few times to kind of try and contrast that, but ultimately what I feel when I listen to it is a lot of just monotonous rapping that I don't really connect with. The song doesn't interest me. I have to say, though, that I think that Megan Thee Stallion here has quite an enjoyable flow at times. I probably just enjoy her work in maybe a different setting. Here, I just kind of don't really find any interest in the song, and that makes me kind of check out of it a little bit. But the flow that she has, I can absolutely see why she would be considered a great rapper for sure. I think though, like probably the main thing that really makes me kind of enjoy this song a little bit would be the melodic inputs from Beyonce. I think the brief sections that she really provides with some proper singing are the highlights of the track for sure. Beyonce also has a few sections where she's rapping, and those are absolutely less enjoyable in my opinion. Would have just probably loved it if she actually was given more time for just singing on this one. I think that would have elevated the track quite immensely. The harmonies that she provides throughout it's fine, but the song ultimately doesn't really interest me. So I'm placing this one in the E tier as well. Could just be a me issue in that sense, but yeah, I would just never willingly really re-listen to this song. However, I would much rather listen to Savage again than ever have to listen to Dance Monkey by Tones and I, which is of course the song with, I gotta say, like, this is from listening to so many songs in all of these tiered list videos now, it's the most grating vocal performance I have ever come across. I do not understand the appeal to this style of singing. It sounds so over the top and exaggerated and just really grating and like abrasive. I just don't get it. I've never understood why this became a hit. I understand that maybe it has a little bit of like a catchy bounce to the song, but at the end of the day, I just feel like it's unlistenable, really. And I'm sorry to say this, but I think it's one of the worst songs to have ever charted. Really, I don't see the appeal at all, and I mean that could be a me thing, but I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Incredibly monotonous and repetitive hook is really what it has. I mean, I get that the bounciness of it is something in there, but it's not very melodically engaging. I think that the staccato hits on the keys throughout the song get tiring after approximately 3 or 4 bars, and then you're just instantly feeling like, this is gonna keep going, isn't it? It's like when you try to hammer in something into your head, so you have to remember it in the most forceful and obnoxious way. The song has a predictable flow and structure, which I'm not a fan of. Maybe I wouldn't hate it as much if the vocals were listenable, but I really don't find them to be, and that is all I have to say. It's a very, very clear F for me. I do not get any enjoyment out of that song whatsoever. I'm terribly sorry, but that's just the way it is. As I move on to What's Poppin' by Jack Harlow, along with DaBaby, Tory Lanez, and Lil Wayne. And this is more like, it's a little bit in the same vein of Savage that I talked about very, very recently here. But it just has none of the positive things about it, really. It's more of this braggy rapping where we have to listen to how great someone is. I'm sure you are fantastic, Jack Harlow, and that you have a very big, what you call it, organ down there, and you got a lot of money and you get a lot of women. Great for you, wonderful. Why am I listening to it? I do not know. Why is it being listened to so much that it's charted number 13 on the year-end Billboard charts? I do not know, because the song is far from being catchy in my opinion. There's no melodic memorability to the track. It's monotonous. The tiresome beat doesn't enhance it at all. Very obnoxious hi-hat going crazy throughout the song as well, that I just think kind of pierces through the soundstage in a very irritating way. I just find it to be kind of like a cacophony, really, I suppose. It's just no really other word I can use for it. Flat and uninteresting listen, in my opinion. I'd rather honestly just kind of listen to this beat either way, even though I find it to be quite underwhelming, because each rap part is just as annoying as the other. I find this to be terrible as well. I'm placing this one in the F tier. I'm sorry, Jack, but I'm not your audience. However, I know that Jack Harlow will return, and will return with something that I'm much more positive about. So keep your eyes on that when we get to that video. I'm not sure which year that's going to be for, but I know for a fact that he will return. Next up is a song that I have to be honest, I had never heard this song before. It's by Gabby, Barrett, and Charlie Puth, and it's called I Hope. Number 12 on the Billboard year-end charts, and I had never heard it in my life. It's kind of like interesting to just get exposed to this one though, because I don't really find anything about it to be particularly like extraordinary or memorable or be a reason for it to chart so highly, but it's here. It's kind of like a little bit of like a pop country ballad, I suppose. It's very clear in its kind of storytelling aspect, which I think isn't kind of a strength, because the instrumental is so scaled back and it's all about this very forceful vocal delivery. And I feel like you kind of, it's easy to listen to every word that's being sung in the song, because I feel like it's just being arranged that way that you're supposed to listen to what the song has to say. So effectively done in that area. However, I find the overall listen, like from start to finish, to be quite uneventful, unfortunately. Musically, I don't find it very exciting, which is a setback, of course. There are some nice vocal lines in here. I think both of them sing quite well, and they work as a duet for sure. But I just don't see much replayability in it, if I'm completely honest. And it just kind of passed me by, left some positive impressions, but most of all, it just kind of left a sense of anonymity, maybe. I'm placing this one in the D tier. I'm placing it between those two because it's not as repetitive, and yeah, it's simply just not as repetitive as Watermelon Sugar, so it lands between those two. As I move on to another slightly repetitive song, unfortunately, but Say So by Doja Cat, which is, I gotta say, kind of warmed up to this one. Back in 2020, when I heard it on the radio a few times, I was like, not really my thing. It's a bit on the monotonous side vocally. However, I've just warmed up to it. The beat is memorable. It definitely stands out. The vocal lines as well, they have a little bit of an intriguing pattern melodically to work on that beat. I just love the kind of snappy energy that the song has as well. It's easy to just nod your head along to it and actually sing along to that hook as well, because it is memorable for sure. Rhythmically, really fun track. The vocal approach, I think, really, it's kind of restrained and not whispery, but very restrained. And I think that kind of works with this punchy instrumental quite well. It's a nice combination of just approaches, really. Just a lovely groove throughout the song as well. I think, personally, I could have managed without the rap verse, because I find that part to be quite annoying, really, and it takes me out of the whole smoothness of the track, because I think the song sounds very smooth, and then you get a rap section which is a bit more on the aggressive side, and I think that kind of takes me out of the whole listening experience a bit too much. Still, fun listen. I'm placing this one in the B tier. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. As I move on to Someone You Loved by Lewis Capaldi, and like this song is very difficult for me to just kind of, I think, like, it's one of these where I've seen so many people say so many contrasting opinions on it, like you either love it or hate it. And I understand why lots of people can't stand Lewis Capaldi's voice here. I think it could absolutely be considered very grating, and I understand that. The song is very much like hard on sleeve vulnerability mixed with this really harsh resonance that he has in his voice, which is a strange combination. But I think that it also feels a little bit authentic in that way, and I'm not really faulting it. I personally just kind of enjoy it. I gotta say, maybe not enjoy, maybe that's the wrong word, but I find this one to kind of be a bit gripping emotionally, really. I think the main thing really about it is the melody of the chorus. I find the melody way too beautiful to really care about how his vocal style is working on top of this instrumental. It's one of the most well-flowing choruses I really know, I'd say. At times, I think that the vocal gets grating too, like especially towards the breakdown before the final chorus. I think that it goes a bit over the top, feels a bit too desperate and too raspy, I guess. I understand that Lewis Capaldi sings this way, but I feel like maybe that's the part where I'm zoning out just a little bit, but then I'm just lulled back into that chorus that I find to be so beautiful. It's one of these that I sing along to every time I hear it, and it feels so passionate, and I want to be just as passionate when I'm singing along to it. I find it to be quite a stunning melody, really, and it works well on that instrumental backdrop that's very scaled back as well. Feels very vulnerable in that sense. Very melodramatic song for sure. Somehow I just always seem to enjoy those. So I'm placing this one in the A tier. I think it's beautifully written, actually. Next up is The Bones by Maren Morris, and I will be honest, this was another one that I wasn't actually familiar with going into this year. Guitar arrangement of this song is quite sweet, but it's hardly noteworthy. It's a very simple arrangement altogether. For being such a highly charting song, I find it to be quite anonymous, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy Maren Morris's vocal performance here. She, of course, did The Middle with Zed and Grey a few videos back, where I really praised her vocal performance. And I think here as well, she sounds great. She's really the one carrying this song forward, because instrumentally, I don't think that it does much. The song is just ultimately really uninteresting to me. It feels very middle of the road, doesn't engage me emotionally nor energetically. Like, it's just trundling along in the middle of the road area, really. It doesn't have an emotional grip on me, and it doesn't really excite me either in terms of its energy. So it's just kind of there, trundles along, somewhat decent listen, but ultimately something that I would never seek out, and I do not understand how it's such a big hit. I'm thinking that this has very similar issues maybe to Intention by Justin Bieber and Quavo there. I'm placing this one in the E tier. I will be completely honest with you. I have no memory of how this song actually went, so it feels quite reasonable to put it in there, regardless of the despite of the good vocal performance, I'd say. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but E is still passable. You pass, but I just don't enjoy it. Next up will be Memories by Maroon 5. I'm not sure how many more Maroon 5 songs will be on these lists, but Memories is it's such a strange one, really. It just wants to be sweet, and I can't really fault it for that. I very much think that the whole connection with the canon in D major, like the melody just being taken out of there, it is a bit distracting, I have to be honest, but it kind of works as well. It's an effective melody, and it works for the setting. I find it to be quite off-putting that they just kind of took it and they wanted to make their own thing with it. But who am I to stop them, really? The song is entirely about that melody. Like, they're not holding back on that aspect. Like, the instrumental is entirely scaled back. There's really nothing going on in it. It's just Adam Levine singing this pretty melody that sticks to people's heads for sure. Harmless listen altogether, ultimately a bit boring in my opinion, but it's fine. I'm placing this one in the D tier next to I Hope. I think I actually place it above I Hope because it is more catchy. Not because of Maroon 5 really, but it's because of Pachel Bell, or however you pronounce the name. I'm sorry, I don't know my composers that well to be able to pronounce their names. But D tier for Memories. This is quite a rough list to look at the moment, isn't it? And it's not getting better, because next up is Future and Drake's collaboration, Life is Good, which is a hip-hop song among others to me. I find nothing about this to stand out. Lifeless beat, mumbling way too much, and no melodic catchiness in the song. Halfway through, I think the song starts off very uninterestingly, and halfway through they completely switch both beat and, I guess, rapper. The whole approach is just being turned on its head here, and somehow it gets even less interesting when Future takes over here. Just a very strange listen. I get no enjoyment out of this, even less than I get from the Jack Harlow track. I find nothing about this to be very memorable, but at least it's not as grating as Dance Monkey. So you're not going to be placed at the very, very bottom of today's tier list. Congratulations, Future and Drake. It's not a song for me, I'm placing it down there. As I move on to Adore You, the second Harry Styles song of today's video, and the one that I do prefer, I'll be honest. However, I'm so, like, when I look at this list, I'm so disappointed that Sign of the Times wasn't on the year-end list for whatever year that was released, because I find that one to be so beautiful, and I really love that track. I don't know where it ranked on the year-end charts for the year that it came out, but I really wish it would have been up here. Instead, we got Watermelon Sugar, and now we have Adore You. And Adore You is a sweet and simple pop tune with a neat little hook to it. There's this very sparkly production on the track that I think fits the vibe of it quite well. Quite enjoyable. Brief guitar solos in the track are absolutely probably the highlights of it as well. I really like those sections, even though they are too brief and don't really get enough presence in the actual song and its development. I feel like they could have definitely enhanced the presence of the guitar, really, or the guitar solos mainly. Nothing really out of the ordinary for me, but a simple and sweet and accessible and enjoyable pop song. It's solid all the way through. I'm placing this one in the C tier, just slightly above Roxanne as well. I find it to just kind of work in what it sets out to do. So kudos to that. As I move on to Rockstar by DaBaby and Roddy Ricch, which is like the first, like when I listened to this song, when I got through this playlist, I was like, wow, I remember this song and I remember it really well. And I don't know where I've heard it before because I don't think they play this kind of music on the Swedish radio. But I was like, yeah, this is a catchy one. It is. I like the finger picking guitar arrangement that the song consists of, and I think the song is atmospherically really neat. The vocal hook has a really enjoyable flow, and it's very memorable. The song, when you listen to it, it's in its entirety, though, I feel like it's kind of getting lost a little bit. I find that there's kind of a lack of dynamics going throughout the song, and there's an underwhelming progression really in here. It feels mostly like a song that sounds just really cool and nice and enjoyable when you get a little clip from it. But then when you sit through the whole thing, I'm just kind of zoning out a little bit and I don't find it as interesting anymore. I'm still placing it in the C tier. I think it's very much in the same vein as Roxanne. I just probably enjoy the beat a little bit more in this particular song, actually. So I'm placing it just above there. Nice hook on this song, really, I have to say. Moving on to Dua Lipa with Don't Start Now. And Dua Lipa I talked about in, was it 2017, 2018 maybe, when she really dropped New Rules that got to be a big hit, and now she's starting to just get bigger and bigger, and in tomorrow's list you will find her at the very top of the list, actually. Spoilers, like not the top of my list necessarily, I never said that, but she was number 1 on the year-end charts. Don't Start Now was number 4, and I kind of get like this real hype around Dua Lipa's music. It's quite characteristic, it flirts with the 80s quite a lot, and in a charming way, I suppose. This song, I think, has absolutely strengths, and then it has some deficiencies as well. The strengths would probably be the strong bass presence throughout the song. The syncopated piano chord stabs are really neat. They helps establish the rhythm quite nicely in the song, and it's upbeat. It's enjoyable for that. I think that you could get your foot tapping along to this beat, and it works if you want to feel a bit dancey. Melodically, however, I don't find it particularly memorable, unfortunately. Maybe I'm completely off in that regard, but I've just never really enjoyed it from a melodic standpoint. I don't think it's that catchy. The sparse melodic significance in these choruses really, like the impact of the choruses they're not really based on melodic approaches. It more feels like the instrumental is the thing that's carrying the song, and I find that to be a disappointment. It feels like it's just mostly wanting to showcase how punchy the beat is, really, and the melody suffers from it. I'm placing this one in the D tier. I think it's less punchy as well than Roses, so I think it fits quite nicely in there. Quite an underwhelming listen for me, I have to be honest. I find there to be so many, so much high potential within this song, but I just never really enjoyed it from a melodic standpoint, and I don't find it to be that memorable. There will be other Dua Lipa songs that I find to be way superior to this one. But nonetheless, number 4 on the year-end charts, congratulations. As I move on to The Box by Roddy Ricch. And in my memory, this song got famous because it had a very iconic sample of the which that repeats throughout the whole song, and you kind of feel like, oh yeah, that's going to be stuck in my head, and for some reason I want to listen to it over and over again, is I guess what someone who listened to it over and over again would say. Because this song charted very, very highly. It's number 3 on the year-end charts, and I guess like part of it I understand. Like overall, I think the song has kind of a rather catchy hook, I would say. The song doesn't develop much. I haven't really returned to it ever willingly. I returned to it now because I wanted to check it out again for these videos. And I mean, the little sample is still in here somewhere. It was at the very back. The first second I started the song, I immediately just recognized it. I think like the beat kind of works. I've heard a lot of worse music within this genre, but I don't really care for this one either, to be completely honest. I'm placing this one in the D tier as well, I'm pretty sure. Let's just throw it in there. It's not as repetitive as Watermelon. Like, I keep returning to that. Watermelon Sugar is too repetitive for me to put anything below it, really, if it's in the same category. But not a particularly interesting listen for me, that one from Roddy Ricch. As I move on to the top 2, and This is, if I'm completely honest, and if I just share my general thoughts on this top two really quickly, this could be the strongest top two set of songs that I've come across so far in this series. I think that Circles and Blinding Lights, that I will talk about very shortly, are just both great. I think we're starting off with Circles, which I think is a very pretty song. I'm so happy to hear this side of Post Malone, where he's just embracing a more kind of, I guess, accessible kind of music is a bit of a wrong term, but it is ultimately that, because it is a soft pop rock kind of song. It has a very memorable chorus. The flow of the track is absolutely what sets it apart as well. The arrangement is subtle. It's purposeful. I love the whole soundscape of the song. I think the great, like the consistent, relaxing energy of the song is just really strong and convincing in the song. I think the production is stunning. It sounds crisp. It sounds clear. The bass walk has a very, very clear presence in the mix here that I think is tons of fun to just listen to and go along with the beat and the flow of it. I love Post Malone's soft vocal performance in the song. I think everything ties together so well. I'm placing this one very clearly into the A tier, and I'm placing it above Someone You Loved because I just think it's a complete vibe of a listen. Wonderful song from Post Malone. Probably, no, definitely my favorite song from him that I've ever come across. And I hope there are more of these, because what a tune, what a tune. And finishing off the list is the tune of all tunes, I suppose, Blinding Lights, a song that is beloved by so many people, and for good reason. I think that actually this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but for the 2021 tier list, I think this song is very highly on the charts as well in that year, which is saying something. This song is massive, and for good reason. Great synth work, very convincing production here, incredibly catchy melody, and the song flows so energetically forward. You got the driving beat that just never really ceases, and it just keeps you engaged from the first second to the last, really. Wonderful flow vocally. I think The Weeknd really kills it in his performance and delivery as well. It sounds purposeful, it sounds compelling, it just shimmers on top of the whole engaging beat as well. I think the atmospheric touch of the instrumental can't be ignored, and then you got the energy combined with that. Just a massive soundscape of so much intense, maybe not intensity, but like just engagement and really like a connection to the audience. I think it feels like a complete world building of a song. You're just getting completely transported into whatever this song really wants to build up, and it feels, it's just built up a world of its own that I get dragged into when I listen to it, and I'm completely lost in the flow of it all. I find it to be a stunning piece of music. It's an S for The Weeknd. I still find that Everything I Wanted is the song that really like just hits me so emotionally that I will have to put it just above Blinding Lights, even though I think Blinding Lights is a perfect pop song. And that will be the end of the tier list. As you can see, maybe not the best tier that when I think about it, but it has a few songs that I really think are fantastic here. Four of those, I mean, the top two are just up there truly. And I think Circles and Someone You Loved are fantastic as well. And Say So, great little pop tune there with a lot of fun ideas and detailing in there. And then some solid songs, and then some that I don't really enjoy, and some that I absolutely very heavily dislike. As a tier list should be, I suppose. Do let me know what you think of the songs from 2020 in the comments. I'm actually really looking forward to reading about that, because this was quite an interesting year to revisit, I have to say. A lot of everything in this list, really. So yeah, it's really fun to get back to this year, and I'm looking forward to revisiting 2021 as well, coming up next here. See what Billboard have to offer from that year. Until then, though, take care of yourselves, and bye for now.